welcome to the Black Dot Society. We are all searching for the paranormal, the creepy, the cryptid, the mysteries. If you have any links to anything that we are going through, because we are diving down deep in the rabbit hole, and every week we'll just keep going. Make sure to send whatever you have to the email in the description at papajunkyard@gmail.com, and we will go diving deep down, solving everything that we can, or at least, spreading information about things, because the more I'm finding out, the more nothing makes sense. Like, how do so many people disappear in national parks and no one's really talking about it nowadays? This is one article by Akshay Beniwal, and it's an unsolved mystery, and it's called The Disappearance of Yuba County 5. I know I was going to talk about fairies, but we'll get to that towards the end. So, Ted Waher, Jack Hewitt, Bill Sterling, Jack Madruga, and Gary Mathias were 5 friends from Yuba City, California. All of them had some kind of intellectual disability and were living with their parents at the time. 4 of the 5 had been close friends from a long time ago, when they met each other through the Gateway Projects, an organization for adults with special needs. Gary, 25, had joined the group recently through the same organization. Even though they were from 24 to 32 years old, they were called boys by their parents and everyone around because of their limited intellectual capabilities. The boys were known around the neighborhood as very sweet and loving. For instance, Ted, who was 32, liked to wave to strangers and would get very upset and sad for hours if they don't wave back. Jack Madruga, 30, was a dishwasher at a local company and had worked in the Army previously as a truck driver. Bill Sterling, 29, also worked as a dishwasher at the Air Force Base, but was asked to leave the job by his parent after they figured out that some people have been taking advantage of his innocence and duping him of money. Jack Hewitt, 24, was the youngest and the least intellectual of all. He couldn't read, write, or use a telephone and was highly dependent on his parents and friends. Gary Mathias, 25, had met the others much later and was an Army veteran. On February 24th, 1978, the boys were super excited to go watch their favorite basketball team, UC Davis, play Chicago State. They themselves were part of a local basketball team and were supposed to play a Special Olympics basketball game over the next day with the chance of winning a week-long trip to Los Angeles. Madruga was the only one who had a driver's license and decided to take his prized possession, a 1967 turquoise and white Mercury Montego, to the game. They all had a great time watching their team win and were spotted shopping for snacks at a nearby convenience store after the game. However, the boys never returned home. All of the concerned parents got together early morning and, upon discovering that none of the boys had returned home from last night, decided to alert the authorities. The police immediately started searching for the 5 boys but could not find anything on the route from the game back to their town. A few days later, a 55-year-old man named Joe Shones approached the authorities with the bizarre story. On the night of February 24, he was driving on an isolated mountain road near Rogers Cow Camp in the Plumas National Forest when his car got stuck in snow. He got out and tried to push his car, but that brought intense pain in his chest. He was having a heart attack. He went back and sat in his car hoping to see someone soon, and he did. He noticed a set of headlights in the dark. He got out and screamed for help, but the group of men and a woman with a baby ignored him and continued walking away. Soon, he felt better and started walking back on the road to safety. On his way back, he saw a car with no occupants, which he believed belonged to the group of men he saw last night. On learning about the story, the authorities thought it was too bizarre and Joe was probably hallucinating. But when they asked him what car he saw the morning while walking back, the answer shocked them to their very core: a turquoise and white Mercury Montego. Immediately, they rushed to the spot. Indeed, he was right. It was Madriga's car with a bunch of empty wrappers inside that they had bought last night at the convenience store. But what was puzzling to the police and the parents as well was that this spot was miles away in the opposite direction of their homes. Why would the boys come here? Also, the car was slightly stuck in the snow, but 5 grown men could have easily pushed it off, and they also had a 1/4 tank full of gas, so they were not really stuck, but they still chose to abandon their car. Why? The authorities performed an extensive search operation of the area. They used dogs, horses, helicopters, and snowcats, and even consulted a psychic and a witch hunter, but nothing came up. They were definitely not helped by many snowstorms during that winter. Soon, spring came, and as snow-melted roads became more accessible, on June 4th, a group of motorcycle enthusiasts were out on a Sunday ride when they came upon a foul-smelling U.S. Forest Service worksite near the Daniel Zink campground, about 19.4 miles from Madriga's abandoned Montego. The site had a 60-foot trailer with a broken window someone had shattered to gain access. As they moved closer to the trailer, the smell got worse and worse. Upon taking a look inside the trailer, they saw a bunch of empty food cans, books, furniture, and a dead body. Soon, authorities arrived on the site and identified the body as 32-year-old Ted Weyer. He was found under 8 layers of sheets on a bed inside the trailer, with his hands on his chest. Both pant legs were rolled up above his knees, revealing apparent blood poisoning and gangrene, as well as 5 toes lost to frostbite. Forensic analysis of his beard growth indicated he survived 4 to 6 weeks after going missing, during which time he shed 80 to 100 pounds from his 5'11", 200-pound frame. They found a gold watch at the bedside table which did not belong to him. 31 cans of food from an outside storage locker had been opened and emptied. Another locker that would have had enough meals to last all 5 men an entire year was unopened. A propane tank outside the trailer could have provided gas and heat, but was also untouched. Also, paper, books, and furniture wood, which could have been used to light fire, were untouched despite Ted's cause of death being ruled as exposure/pulmonary edema. The food had been pried open with an Army P-38 can opener, a small sickle-shaped device that only Matthias and Madriga would have had experience using. Gary Matthias' sneakers were inside, and Ted's much bigger leather shoes were gone, leading investigators to believe Matthias had been inside the trailer long enough to swap footwear. Fearing the worst, police officials began searching for the other 4 boys in the area. 2 days later, the bodies of Sterling and Madriga were found 8 miles closer to the car, on opposite sides of a mountain road leading to the trailer. There was nothing left of Sterling but bones scattered across the forest floor. Madriga's body had been picked apart by animals and dragged to a nearby stream, car keys still in his pants pocket. The Yuba County coroner identified Madriga's cause of death as hypothermia/exposure, but couldn't determine what happened to Sterling. They were believed to have died while making the journey from their car to the trailer Ted was found dead inside. On June 8th, Jack Hewitt's dad, who was assisting with the search, spotted his son's jacket not far from the trailer. When he picked it up, Jack's spine fell out. Yo, man. He was identified by the teeth in his skull, found 50 feet away. Within 4 days of the search, all of the bodies or remains were found, except one, Gary Matthias. After 2 weeks, the search was called off without any answers about Matthias. Police had found the bodies but were not able to understand why the 5 men would abandon their car and travel 19 miles amidst a snowstorm in the dark of night. Also, why would they go towards the mountains in a completely opposite direction from their house? And more importantly, where is Gary Matthias? No one could answer those questions. Soon, some disturbing details of Gary's past started resurfacing. Public learned how he was placed in a psychiatric ward as a sophomore in high school, following a bad hallucinogenic trip. his consistent drug use throughout his service in the U.S. Army in the early 1970s, an AWOL arrest, and a medical discharge for paranoid schizophrenia. He also had a violent past of attacking 2 sergeants while also being naked, leaving one with a bloody nose. That same month, Matthias was at his cousin's house while the cousin's 17-year-old wife slept, passed out from her medication. The cousin found Matthias straddling his wife, groping her breasts as she lay nearly motionless in her underwear. The cousin asked Matthias what he was doing, to which he allegedly replied that he wanted to kiss the woman. When the cousin said he was calling 911, Matthias allegedly responded, "Good, I want to go back to jail." In his next run-in with law enforcement that December, police had evidence he visited the home of a couple he knew after consuming methamphetamine and swallowing tablets of the amphetamine benzedrine. Matthias was acting erratically, talking about how he wanted to stab a woman in the jaw, the couple told police. After he told their 3-year-old daughter, "I thought I'd kill you once, I guess I'd have to do it again." The man and woman reportedly kicked Matthias out of their house and watched as he pounded on locked doors until police arrived. He had other run-ins with the law, an arrest on suspicion of grand theft auto, a citation for disturbing the peace and driving without a license, a slew of bar fights, and complaints that he was prowling at a local cemetery. After being picked up by Stockton police in 1974, Matthias was admitted to a nearby state mental hospital. He spent 2 days there before crawling out through a drain pipe and walking and hitchhiking back to Marysville, still wearing his hospital pajamas. It was a daring but familiar escape. Matthias had previously sneaked out of Leatherman Army Hospital's psychiatric ward in San Francisco and later walked away from another mental health facility in 1975. He had once walked from Portland to Marysville, surviving by stealing milk off of porches and eating dog food to stay alive on the 540-mile trek. Later that year, a Yuba County couple awoke to find Matthias standing in their bedroom. He had punched through the window and unlocked their front door. It was now looking for a ring to return to Satan, the couple told police. When the couple asked why he was there, he said they were in his house and he was there to collect rent. Matthias's path straightened out after that. He started to consistently take his schizophrenia medication and was able to hold down a job with his stepfather's gardening business. He had no notable contact with police during the 2 years leading up to his disappearance. He joined Gateway Projects and started hanging out with Sterling, Weyer, Madriga, and Hewitt a few months before the boys went missing. But even under the mellowing haze of antipsychotic drugs such as Cognitin, Stelazine, and Proxylin, Gateway Gators basketball coach Robert Pennock told investigators he still felt like Matthias could possibly flip out at any time. Following a 1978 interview with Matthias' longtime acquaintance Janet Enzera, Yuba County Sergeant James Black wrote that Matthias had repeatedly told Enzera of a dream where he and several other people would disappear. Enzera called Matthias a very violent person, hurting several men seriously, and said that he also hates women. The other boys' parents weren't comfortable with Matthias either. Even though they didn't seem to know about his criminal record, he was a stronger personality, the only one among them who would fight back if threatened, or if the 5 missing boys. Of the 5 missing boys, he would be the most likely to lead and suggest places to go or things to do. To this day, no one could say for certain what happened to Gary. He was an Army veteran and had previously trekked for more than 500 miles, and surviving in doing so. His remains have never been found, nor anyone has ever spotted him after that. Did Gary have an episode due to not taking his medication, and took his friends on a journey he knew they couldn't survive? Did he tell them not to burn wood and paper for heat in the freezing winter? Did he prevent Ted from eating canned food even if there was a year's supply present? Did he put those 8 layers of sheet on Ted's body? Why only his body was never found? Why did the boys go in the opposite direction after the game that night? Did someone force them to do that? Was it Matthias? There are way too many questions related to this case that will remain a mystery forever. Some of my pronunciation during that would be pretty bad, but it'd be like that sometimes. Comment below what you think happened to them. They were all army vets, so they could have survived off of like crackers if they wanted to. And since that guy said that the one who was stuck in the snow, the old man, he saw them with a woman, so that could be like a siren or a fairy guiding them. Sirens are like the mermaids or women that use their charm to lure men to their deaths. They would be pretty easily influenced, but also the man was super schizophrenic, which means he saw things that normal humans can't. He saw like the veils between the worlds, and he had access to the other side of that veil. And since he had those dreams that said that they would disappear, those are just premonitions. And the way they found everyone's bodies, like, they could have been transported to a different realm, kind of like how in episode 1, how we said that people would be found later on with just their corpse in random places, or the places where they disappeared in. They wouldn't be there before, and then all of a sudden they popped up. What if these people were in a different dimension where they didn't have all those supplies that were in the sheds? And what if Gary Mathias was still on the other side, or that other dimensional place? There's folklore about the fairies luring people and taking them to the fairy realm. Everything they say, everything they do, it would sound very nice and warm and charismatic, and they just have their charisma stats maxed out. So especially if the guys were mentally handicapped, they would be convinced pretty easily, especially if Matthias, the head person of their little group, agreed to go with them. So, but that's my take. I say it's a fairy or an entity lured them to, one of those portals that lead to a gateway to the other realm, whatever it may be. But that could be why they were missing, why they're still missing, or at least Matthias is still missing. And that could be why they had so much supplies, but they couldn't do anything with it, because in that other realm, they didn't have all that supplies. But, let me know in the comments what you think. Share with people. We will move on to part 2 of this episode. I don't know how long I'm going to make them. I'll probably make them, I don't know, I'll just wing it. I'll just keep going. So, thank you for following along and making it this far. If you're new, like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Share with people you know. This next one's an anonymous story. In July of 2009, I took my kids for a 10-day camping trip into the woods of eastern Washington. We camped at the Mystic Lake campground outside of Newport, Washington. The campground is actually at a distance above the lake. Mystic Lake is a small alpine lake. Online, I learned that it's only 19 acres in coverage. There is no good beach because the mountain sides come down so steeply, and to continue at that same steep angle beneath the water. So, although it is fairly small, it is also very deep. The steep trail from the campground comes in at one end of the lake. At the far end, it is reedy and marshy, not a place you want to swim. My teenagers were often down in the lake swimming, but then they started telling me they were seeing this huge creature in the lake and asked if I'd seen it. I hadn't. One of the kids had been perched atop an inner tube when she saw this huge shadow pass swiftly under her. This sounded weird and concerning, so I suggested they stay out of the lake the rest of that day. The next day, though, it was hot, and the younger ones, who weren't allowed to go down without me, wanted to go swimming, so we did. I was in the middle of the lake. The younger kids were wearing their life vests and playing with flotation devices. I glanced towards the far end of the lake, only to do a double take. It looked like there was a swan down at the far end of the lake. The sleek head turned all the way around on its long, graceful neck, the way swans do towards the curved wings behind it. The only problem was, the swan wasn't a swan. The colors were all wrong, being many shades of gray with a touch of white. Local animals were always in shades of brown. Also, I realized in shock that whatever it was way, way too big to be a swan. The lake was relatively small, but for the creature to be seen at that distance, it had to be quite large. I watched it for a while, but couldn't figure out what it was. Then it disappeared under the water. We got out. The next day at our campsite on the bluff above the lake, the kids came running to tell me that they could see it in the lake again. I hurried to the cliff's edge, and sure enough, there was the same swan-looking thing I'd seen before. Again, it acted somewhat swan-like before diving down under the water, swimming at an angle down, headed sideways across the lake. It dove swiftly and in just a moment was too deep to see, but it was huge. In retrospect, trying to guess at the length of the creature, I would put it at a conservative 14 feet, 4.2 meters in length. The only thing is, considering how high we were above the lake and the distance from the lake, it could easily have been twice that. It was certainly no less than 14 feet in length, and at the most conservative estimate. We didn't go in the lake after that, but we did see it several times from our view above the lake, each time very briefly. Later, in looking for any information online, we found a couple of pictures that best summed up what we saw. So pretty much the picture that they're showing is a plesiosaur. It's those, fin dinosaurs with a really long neck. I'm saying I don't know what we saw, but we did see something. And the colors we saw did not fit the shades of brown that naturally color most animals of the area. Also, it wasn't a duck, and it was way, way too big to be a swan. I've wondered in the years since how Mystic Lake got his name, and if there's a higher number of unexplained drownings at that lake, but I never took the time to stop by the ranger station to inquire. Also, my kids and I were convinced that no one would believe us, so we certainly didn't tell anyone what we'd seen. It's only with the relative anonymity that I'm willing to talk about it now. Yeah, so they pretty much just found Lugia chilling inside this lake. Just leave him alone, and he'll be fine. But I do believe that there are still dinosaurs roaming around everywhere. The ocean is so big. We haven't even got into, like, the ocean. Well, we're just starting, right? So, I'll probably make a map. I'll map out what we could start diving into. Because we're doing these 411 cases. But then we also have to go over all the different cryptids. We have to go over UFOs. We have to go over, frost giants. All the conspiracy theories. The ice wall theories. Lemuria, Atlantis. We are going to dive down every single rabbit hole that we can. We're going to talk about different demons, the Goetia, how to summon them, angel magic, different beliefs, zombies. Don't even get me started on zombies. Werewolves, skinwalkers, wendigos, everything dark, spooky, cryptid, we are going to dive down. So if you want to, hop on this roller coaster, dive down this spooky journey with us, and make this community really, really, connect, then follow on Instagram, and we will all talk in the comments, and we will make this cool community of paranormal hunters. And eventually, if you guys go on your own expeditions and find some spooky stuff, like footage, I'll give you a shout out or whatever. I will post all that footage on the YouTube channel, and we will make this grow. It'll be great. We will wear shirts, and that is pretty much my goal for this channel. So I thank you for listening and getting this far. I'll post another video on Thursday, hopefully, if all goes well. But this is Papa Junkyard, and I will catch you guys next time. Oh yeah, one quick thing before I leave, they updated the Spinosaurus. So now the Spinosaurus is walking on all fours, and it has a big alligator tail that looks so cool. You can look it up. Spinosaurus update, Spinosaurus update, Spinosaurus update. Yeah. That's the end of the video. Thank you. I'll catch you guys later.